So this week in our sacred gathering, we're going to be doing what we used to call roundtable discussions because we used to have those roundtables back when we were in the bar. Now it's just open discussion. So rather than me having kind of a talk in which I kind of curate the discussion, I'm going to be down with the kids this week. So this discussion over some Bible passages, over a couple of just kind of interesting quotes I've read in books that I wish I could hear everyone discuss and bounce back and forth. We, again, at Wayfarers believe everything has things to teach, everyone has things to learn, and so this is just one of the ways we show that. So for this recording, for those of you who won't be able to join us in person, here are a few of my thoughts. I'm just going to largely read these quotes out, give a few of my thoughts, and then we'll call it a day. So the first kind of question I'm asking everyone is just about flourishing generally. What are some of the important aspects of a flourishing life in your eyes? How closely does your life fit this ideal? And what's keeping you from doing so? I think these are just good questions for us to ask, again, kind of at the beginning of the year when everyone's thinking in terms of New Year's resolutions, what we're going to do with our year, and making sure that we're thinking of flourishing again in God's terms, not in the terms maybe we always want, which can be a little self-centered at times. So to think in those terms, the two kind of quotes I had, one is from Genesis chapter 1. God saw everything he had made. It was very good. The heavens and the earth and all who live in them were completed. On the sixth day, God completed all the work he had done. And on the seventh day, God rested from all the work that he had done. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all the work of creation. The second quote I'll have everyone look at comes from the author Mako Fujimura in his book Culture Care. Beauty is a gratuitous gift of the Creator God. It finds its source and its purpose in God's character. God, out of his gratuitous love, created a world he did not need because he's an artist. But even if we would agree that beauty is not necessary to our daily survival, it is still necessary for our flourishing. Our sense of beauty and our creativity are central to what it means to be made in the image of a creative God. The satisfaction and beauty we feel is connected deeply with our reflection of God's character to create and value gratuity. It is part of our human nature, and that is why our souls hunger for beauty. But if beauty is food for the soul, we can also think in terms of the many things we are still learning about the interaction between food choices and the health of body, mind, and spirit. When we're busy or distracted, it is easy to fall back on eating overly processed convenience foods. Their empty calories do little to strengthen our bodies and may indeed create unhealthy appetites or increase our vulnerability to clinical depression. Similarly, when feeding our souls, we dare not substitute surface attraction, that which is effortlessly appreciated and soon exhausted of virtue, for true beauty. Instead, we need to cultivate an appetite for the best soul food, whole and unprocessed, requiring time to absorb and to digest. And so I connected those two, just noting that in Genesis, it tells us that God rested after his work, after creating all things. And I would argue a piece of that is not because God needs refreshment and rest, right? God is the source of all energy. God does not need to rest from working too hard. God is stopping to enjoy and delight. And I think kind of this soul food that even God seems to need, right? To enjoy the beauty of the world, to just enjoy it as it is. And so I just ask us all to look, what are the places of beauty, rest, and enjoyment that are important for us spiritually? Are we getting enough? Or are we falling back on I think kind of soul junk food, things that may relax us briefly, may distract us from how busy our lives are, from the sorrows we see and experience? Or are we experiencing true refreshment? And that's, of course, what Sabbath is all about, right? Sabbath is about taking time every week to be in God's presence, to be in one another's presence, and to really be nourished, to really rest and delight well. Two other quotes I wanted us to think about in this. The first comes out of Isaiah chapter 61. The Lord's Spirit is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me. He has sent me to bring good news to the poor, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release for captives and liberation for prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and a day of vindication for our God, to comfort all who mourn, to provide for Zion's mourners, to give them a crown of beauty in place of ashes, oil of joy in place of mourning, a mantle of praise in place of discouragement. They will be called oaks of righteousness, planted by the Lord to glorify himself. They will rebuild the ancient ruins. They will restore formerly deserted places. They will renew ruined cities, places deserted in generations past. The second quote I have everyone looking at comes from Miroslav Volf and Matthew Crossaman, a book called For the Life of the World. Christ came to call people to a flourishing life. Guided by God's kind of love and empowered by God's Spirit, all of us are called to flourish fully in the world become God's home and partially on the journey there, rejoicing even while having to mourn, accepting lack willingly so that the needs of others can be satisfied, living lives of courage and integrity as we struggle against the evils of this age, trusting and loving God, participating in God's mission in the world, and in all this, growing into our own human fullness. And so I string these quotes together. To me, they're fascinating look. I think many people have a view of the religious life as one that's kind of austere. And I think there are aspects of self-denial, absolutely. There are aspects in the spiritual life of just letting things be simple, of having enough and having humility. But I don't think that those are done because God desires us to be suffering in some way. It's because God truly is calling us to be most fully human. God truly is offering a flourishing and abundant life to us. It just tends to be in the opposite direction. It tends to come from being involved in the lives of others, which in this fallen world, of course, involves some suffering, which of course involves aching with others who ache, etc. But I think this abundant, this flourishing life is what God is calling to us. I think there is deep delight there. I think there is deep joy and enjoyment of things and a gratuitousness, not a gratuitousness that is gross and harmful as the world often offers to us, a wastefulness, right? It's a truly enjoying what is with us and in front of us, of beauty and being filled and being whole and things being right in the world. So I guess coming into a new year, just dreaming again of what maybe could happen this year, I do want us to remember God desires a deep abundance for us, and he invites us into a path of deep abundance that is just maybe very opposite of the one the world offers. And I think the harm that is involved in so much of what we mistake for true beauty and true fullness and the true path of following God.